is papers we've been reading.
It is about lasers, though.
This is such a like the selection of topics here. Like I was making the advertisement. I'm like, okay, we're talking about like the effects of AI on the brain and like how that fits into cognitive training and also birds. Although I mean, okay, I feel like the thing about neuroscience is that actually like whenever you're talking about neural mechanisms of stuff, it goes back to a bird fact like a surprising amount of time. like you're like, oh, we're learning about like visual learning. Oh, okay, now we're learning about owls and like how they hunt things.
Yep. It's all about the dinosaurs. We're just grown-up dinosaur watchers.
Yeah.
So basically, for those who don't know, my first ever job was bird watching. I took people around San Francisco and pointed at birds and was like identified them, and that was my first ever job in high school for San Francisco Nature Conservation. And yeah, it bit the bug. Love birds. Always been in my life. Other things happened too. Became a neuroscientist, but I always am enamored by birds. I'll go watch birds. I'll drag Nathan out to the middle of a marsh and get eaten alive by mosquitoes just to see a bird. It's really rare that I'll like flip through a neuroscience journal and then suddenly see a paper about birds and it's not even like bird behavior or anything. It's straight up birds like feathers can be lasers. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah. And so I sat there and I was just like, wait, do I know what a laser is? And like, what does that actually stand for?
Yeah, so Ruby sent me this paper and was like, oh, we should talk about this paper. And I'm like reading, I'm like, what? And my background is in optics. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I'm just like, so the birds are lasers? And yeah. is that the conclusion of the paper, or?
Yeah, the conclusion is there are biolasers, and bird feathers, a part of bird feathers actually are, and I'll show some of the figures in a bit. But I wanted to define what a laser was first, because I was just like, wait, I thought, like you're like when you think laser, I think laser pointers, and then I think like lasers that are like the super fancy lasers for imaging, because that's the lasers I use. Oh, ironically, I'm wearing a Thurlob shirt today, just a company that makes a lot of microscopy parts. But anyway, then I was just like skimming these papers, and like in the first introduction of it, they're like, yeah, there's a lot of biolasers around. In fact, like bones and like human bones, animal bones are lasers. Like human cells, tumors are also lasers. And I was just like, wait, what is a laser again? Like, what makes a laser? And laser actually is acronym. Is that the right word? Acronym when like the first letter. Yeah. Okay. So laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emissions of radiation. I guess I took out the B and the O, but if it's light amplification, stimulated emissions radiation. So that's what laser stands for. Basically, if you pump some photons into a thing that's a laser, it'll amplify it, parts of the some of the photons in particular wavelength, and so it'll amplify it and it'll emit back more than it went in, but it will emit back in a coherent way, which means like the waves, like if you imagine like photons moving like waves, like coherent waves are like when they move together. And so that's a laser. And so apparently there are like certain structures in the wild and in biology that can become lasers. Hold on, my head thing is out of battery. Okay, I'm back. And so there's a lot more biolasers than I thought, but I was just like, oh, I guess like no one's really pointing every substance and like shooting them with like femtospeed amounts of light. Oh, hello? Is that you, Nate?
I am not sure. I think so, maybe.
Did something change with the audio? It sounds okay now. Nope, now it sounds weird again. It has like a whirling sound.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I guess it's okay when you're not talking.
Oh, I cannot hear anything.
Oh, you can't hear anything? That's not good.
Hang on 1 second. Let me try one thing.
No background sounds here. Oh, okay. Wild. Interesting. Connect default. How about now? Maybe it was my sound. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Ooh. I'm getting Hey, Nate. It went away. The feedback went away. Ruby is echoing. Oh no, is it me? Is it still echoing? Am I still echoing?
Hang on, I just Let's try that again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. I can. Yep. Cool.
Yay, went away. Okay, that was a weird glitch. Maybe we were hit with some neutrinos.
Yeah, I actually have a theory about what might be going on, which is that like my computer updated its audio drivers and the audio system has been slightly weird. But anyway, we were talking about what is laser, right?
Yes, laser. Laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emissions of radiation. And that basically means you kind of have to hit it with some light first. And I guess and then record what gets bounced back. And I guess that wasn't just like I guess optical physicists weren't just pointing things at biological specimens and until now then when they decided to put a peacock feather in front of it and I was like, whoa, parts of the feather is lasers.
And so when they said is laser, so they shoot light at it and they were able to then get it to like emit coherent light at a different frequency is how they figured out that it's a laser.
Yeah, at like one of the at like a particular frequency, it would be like there would be like a huge amount that comes back, and it was more coherent than before. Let me share my screen. Spectral fingerprinting share. Okay, so this is the paper. It's called Spectral Fingerprinting of Laser Emissions from Rhodamine 6 gene fused male Indian peacock tail feathers. So basically they took a feather from a peacock. They dyed it with they dyed the barbules on the feathers and they kept wetting it with the dye over and over again and letting it dry. And then after doing that a couple times, and they pointed a laser at it, and then a highly conserved set of laser wavelengths was observed. So let me show you what that looks like. So here in figure 1 is the setup. So here is a pump laser, and
I can't actually see the thing you're sharing.
Oh, you're not looking at it?
No. Try and share it again.
Let me just share my window. Share. Okay, so it should be.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now we got it. Yeah.
Now you can see it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here is the laser in figure 1B. There's a pump laser here. There's just a filter. This is just a polarizing cube to dump extra light that's not pointing in the right direction. And then this splits the beam so that you can like record from it. And then this goes into the lens, and then this hits the sample. So this red spot is where the feather would be. And then this spectrometer assembly would be where you would record. So you basically hit it with a laser, with a light, and then record what gets bounced back, like what gets reflected off the barbule. And this is what it looks like when you reflect at different parts of the feather. So like they're pointing at the arrow here, like this is like this brown part, and this is the reflectance you get back. This is the blue part in the center, and this is what the reflectance looks like there. This is the green part. This is the yellow part right here. And the cool part is so these are the emission spectra from each one of these. And if you look here,
I think I'm only seeing that first image, like of the diagram of the optical setup. Is the other one in a different window?
oh no, okay, stop sharing this. Why is viewer being dumb?
I think
Share
maybe
screen.
shared one window, and then so it.
Okay, share. What about now? Are you seeing it now?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, so here we're in figure 4, and so here's the wavelengths, and then you can see this like huge peak that comes out when they're pointing the laser at this bit of the feather, like this transition zero zone. And so
and then what are the other lines on that graph?
The other lines here,
Yeah.
I think this is like this is
Okay,
what
so
you
we've
would
got the
expect. Go ahead.
Oh, so we've got like lasing Gaussian. So is that like what you'd expect just from the laser activity of the sample?
Correct. Yeah. So like if it's just like if you just lasered something that was not a laser itself, if you like hit light with it, you would just get this normal curve. And instead you actually get these like peaks at 585-ish nanometers. You get this peak here. You also get a little bit peak here and a little peak here. So like there's like almost like 3 different wavelengths here where you get coherent light that just like is just a higher intensity than what you're like pumping in. And it's like in this transition zone between like the blue and the green part of the feather.
Interesting. And you were saying that it's something about like the physical structure of these feathers that
Of the
creates
barbules.
lasing activity,
Yeah.
right?
And I think it has to do with like how even shapes they are, like how common. So like the only tissue in human tissue that is also a laser is like bone and tumor cells. And I was like, well, what do those things have in common? It's like a lot of similar shaped things next to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like it has to do with the structure of the thing that bounces on. And this is just like plotting like the power of what is going in. But I like hold on, let's jump back up to this setup. Like this is how the experiment was done. They have the peacock feather here, they have the laser here, they pump a bunch of light in here, and then they record with the spectrometer assembly, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like that.
And
that
so
was like.
Did they speculate about why this is? Like, is this just kind of a completely like just like a lot of things happen to be lasers, or do they think there's some evolutionary reason for these biological systems to have this lasing property?
Yeah, I think the consensus was there's more things that are lasers than we realized before. So before this paper, the random laser emissions has only been observed in stained bovine bones, blue coral skeletons, insect wings, sandwich parrot feathers, and human tissue, but like that was the cancer tissue. And I think as we start putting more things under the microscope, we might find more things that are
what a weird list of things to like have tested. But
yeah, and I think the dye also helped, right? So
yeah, like they were like, oh, this might be optically interesting because it's this colorful feather.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where they speculate if they're, why there are so many. Excitingly, they were independently confirmed by a undergraduate laboratory class assignment where students followed the same preparation shared in this preprint. And then they also found their same result, which is kind of cool.
So like people are just
in like physics lab and be like, well, yeah, let's point things at it and record the emissions. They also saw it too. Like it's kind of cool. Like you just like Yeah, like you dye some feathers and then suddenly it becomes a laser. Um and you can do it with a random, like there could be a lot more things out there in the world. But now I was, did they say why they think the animals have it? Because you can imagine the sun being the radiation too, right?
Yeah, that
Like the
excites it.
sun that excites it. I mean, I guess like without the dye, it probably wouldn't be as strong of a laser, but it probably has some laser like properties. And you can imagine a bird, and like the visual systems of other birds are probably not the same as ours. They probably have different size cones and stuff. Like maybe they actually do perceive it, or maybe it's like peafowl predators like will get freaked out by it. I don't know what eats a what a
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
like
mean,
a cat or something.
it kind of sounds like the most obvious explanation. It's just that like it's easy to make lasers, and there's just a lot of things that are kind of accidentally lasers.
Yeah, I mean,
Um, it kind of
like
reminds me,
simple bio lasers are more common than
yeah,
anticipated. Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of like our episode where we were talking about consciousness, and then we were just like, huh, maybe everything is just a little bit conscious. Like maybe that's just like a thing that is in the universe, and like maybe everything is like a little bit conscious and a little bit laser.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, this is the analogy we did where it was like table on one end and then
Right. Yeah. Yeah. With Nadira, where we were talking about like, okay, so like if you roll something down, like if the table is uneven, does that mean it's integrating information? And
Rib
we were
IV
just like,
says accidental laser would be a good band name.
true. Yeah. It's like it's one of those few things that's like both a good band name and like a good like case study in an industrial safety class. Um, Actually, I feel like a lot of like industrial accidents would be good band names. Actually, never mind. Like, there's probably a lot of
dark dark
yeah,
occupational hazard related band names.
like good metal bands, like all the hazard symbols, like toxic mutagen or something would be.
Yep. That's
Anyway,
hilarious.
cool. Yeah.
All right, that was the
I
paper. I
wanted,
kind of sort of
yeah,
prepared, but I
yeah.
think Nathan
So,
has cooler papers.
and for anyone who is confused, so what happened is we're like, okay, this week we were like, let's pick some papers that we've been reading and found really interesting and talk about them, birds, and like how birds are just apparently lasers. Um, and I ended up going down this like rabbit hole about AI and cognitive function. And so to kind of context this for everyone, so basically, so like there's been this thing in the news for a while. It actually came from a paper out of MIT that kind of kicked it off, although there's been a few papers in this vein, one from Microsoft Research. Um, I'm going to put it in the chat, actually. Um, and it's really been spreading on social media. There's been tons of people talking about it. This idea that people are dependent on AI, and it is actually then kind of people are going to become lazy and lose their natural brain function or lose their ability to do things. And so I started reading about this, and I was thinking like, okay, I mean, so I actually study learning and memory, and I was like, okay, this is actually like seems like a really good opportunity for me to kind of go back and like refresh my memory about like how some of these things work, and also to think about like how does this fall like within the general neuroscience of like brain fitness and like how we practice things, and like based on that, does this idea kind of make sense is the direction I wanted to go in this.
I feel like with any technology, we have like it's a natural progression, right? Like how many people
Yeah,
right now could go and survive on a deserted island and
right,
start from scratch? Do you know what I mean? Like we are going to get
yeah,
away from that. Like the people who are super skilled at survival, like that, some of that knowledge is not passed on. It's probably in a book somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
Like,
like it's
but
kind of, I mean, it's a good thing too. I mean, like we live in New England. I think without AI that runs the electric grid, like most of the people here would not survive the winter. Like there would be no universities here. Like without this extremely complex computational system distributing power. Um, and like is that a vulnerability? Yes, like we would be in trouble if it like stopped working, like we talked about last episode actually.
yes, if we get
But
a massive solar
also
flare and like knocked out our power grids, yes, we would be vulnerable.
but with like treatments to be able to like grow their own food and make their own shelter and stuff. And like, so I think most people would agree it's like, yeah, we are dependent on a lot of this technology, but it's actually worth it and it's better than not being. And I guess like the reason I bring this up is like, I think this is one of the things that comes up when people are discussing this is like, one of the things is people are worried about people becoming dependent on this AI technology to do stuff. And just like, yeah, I guess like I wouldn't say we should never worry about it, but also I think it like it's not a terribly good argument in itself because we are dependent on, I mean that's what technology is. I do think one of the specific claims that gets made about this, and it's the idea is like this is technology that kind of takes away the work of thinking and doing mental work. And because of that, like not only are people going to get, and so the argument kind of goes like, not only are people going to get worse at say writing essays because they spend less time writing, they're actually going to get worse at like basic cognitive skills, like implications for society is one of the kind of the points that gets brought up a lot in this.
Do you not think prompting, like thinking about how to prompt the AI to give us what they want, is part of it too? Like that requires cognitive processing and
I
thinking.
actually think it does, yeah. And this is like I think it does. I mean, I think that is actually pretty intense cognition. And
And like then
I think that
picking
actually,
through what it
Mhm.
says, what it feeds you, and being like, was that real or not? Is it hallucinating me answers that I want to
Yeah,
hear? And like that combination is actually quite cognitively taxing as well, like
yeah,
almost as much as writing it yourself. Like it's kind of like the difference between writing an essay and reading an essay and grading it, because like now you're having someone write it and you have to grade it and be like, I like that or not. And then I
yeah,
was
and
like,
it's in,
I'm gonna
yeah.
take that sentence pattern in that way because I like the way it sounded. Perhaps it's difficult, right? Like you still have to check if it's good, and
Mhm.
if it, yeah, you have to check if it's good and it's aligned with your goals. And a lot of times it makes even less mistakes or comments more. So, for example, when you're coding and you're using a Copilot, they'll comment every line. And when I code and I comment like every fifth line, and 2 months later I come back and be like, it's not working. Why? It can comb through it and be like, hey, like, why'd you do this? For it, like it's, and you don't have to like go find someone that knows what they're doing to, and bother them.
Right.
You can just do it in the middle of the night by yourself and your AI Copilot and be like, and they'll be like, this is the error. Well, that's why you have an error. Go fix that part of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
It
I was gonna say my favorite thing about Gemini, actually, I use it for coding, and my favorite thing is like if you look at its thinking process, it mentions like a lot of times it's going to like do things meticulously. Like it will be like, now I am meticulously sorting the data. And I'm just like, okay, good. I'm glad you're being careful about it. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
and
but yeah, I
importantly,
agree. Like,
you have
I think
to
that is
go through it.
cognitive load. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And like if you don't know
and
how to prompt it, you also, like, like you need to know what you want from it before,
right.
you know it can give you the thing, and then you also need to decide if it's hallucinating things that you don't want to. And we are the BS meters. Perhaps that is like good practice, right? Like maybe these are the things we need to teach kids now, instead of just like agreeing and accepting every version of the essay that it would generate, they need to learn how to make the essay actually good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, arguably, it's like just kind of a new approach to writing, where it's like, okay, instead of, I mean, you could argue that kind of like writing on a computer is going to become something that's more like handwriting. And now, kind of in the future, maybe the way people are writing is really they're more acting like an editor or something like that. And I mean, I think it's definitely like, yeah, people are going to need to learn those skills. I also think you're right. And then, like, these are intense cognitive tasks. I mean, if you do just brain imaging when people are doing this kind of task where it's like they need to keep a complex goal in mind, evaluate something according to like how well does it achieve that goal, and then figure out like how to change it, and then how to express that to the AI. Like that is a really complex cognitive task.
Yeah. And there are many times I read papers in the past, my entire PhD. I've read papers that I was like, oh man, that was so rough. Like, data's cool. This is actually interesting, but it was so rough to get through it. And it was because English was not their first language. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but they know what they're trying to say. But if you were already having English as your first language and you know like what sounds good, you could probably do it without the assistance of it. But wouldn't it be nicer to read papers that all sounded good? And all, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like imagine every paper in every journal just sounding good and just made logical sense, like when you read it on the first pass. You don't have to go back and be like, wait, did they mean this or did they mean this? Like it could clean up the grammar, it could clean up like idiosyncrasies that are
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
confusing and not precise. And if you
And
were
of course,
already
the person still needs to make sure it's not like actually changing the meaning
correct. Yeah,
too.
they
But
still have to
yeah.
go through it and make sure it's not changing the meaning. And if you're already good at writing and you spent time writing, then you don't need it. You don't have to use it.
Yeah.
And I have found that that's true. Like when you're writing really precise science language, it often does it wrong and you have to fix it.
Mhm.
But it can comb through all of it and fix all your grammar. I am so happy for that. Like copy editing issues, having extra spaces in places, like changing, like I'm we don't have to have a poor grad student go through and like change all the acronyms to like all match the capitals and undercases. This is amazing. I love it.
Yeah. But I think like this is really interesting, like this thing we're talking about when it comes to this kind of like cognitive laziness argument, because I think the argument that's often being made, and it comes directly from these studies. So like in one of these studies, what they did is they had people um, write essays either using just their brain or a search engine or ChatGPT. And what they found is that the people who use ChatGPT on the first essay they wrote, they had a harder time quoting from it, and they also showed some markers that they were kind of less cognitively engaged when they were writing. And so the kind of the conclusion that people are taking away from that is that when people are using the AI, they're not expending as much cognitive effort, and therefore kind of there's this risk that people are not exercising their brains as much and they're becoming cognitively lazy. And I think like the thing that you're saying is it's a little bit weird because this is a task that's being done in a vacuum. It's like they write the essay and then they sit there until the time is up. Versus like in real life, it's like, okay, you write an essay and then you're going to go do something else, presumably. So the fact that like it was easier to write the essay doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be cognitively lazier. Like maybe you spend more time revising the essay, or you write the essay and then you like go for a walk outside even. Like I
And
think
you
that
think
that's the
about another
challenge.
problem
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
fix
So
that other
that's the
problem that
like I think this is something I have when I see people talking about these cognitive laziness arguments, is that it rests on this assumption that what is good for the brain is to be constantly like writing essays. Assumption is that kind of your brain will get stronger if you're kind of doing intense research with a lot of memory load and you're concentrating all the time. And honestly, I don't believe that. I don't think that's really consistent with the literature that's out there.
yeah. I think having time to do novel things is will grow your brain. And if you are grow your brain,
Oh,
like
are
if
you
you
there,
figure,
Ruby? I
yeah,
think
I'm here.
your signal maybe dropped out.
Oh no. Hello, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Sadness.
Your brain will get.
Hello? I feel like I'm getting signal in. Hello? Oh no. Hello?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I don't know what
We
was on there.
we switched roles.
Oh,
I
weird.
was I was gonna say, I feel like for me, I grow the most intellectually when I am in challenge with novel things. And if the mundane tasks of changing bullet points into nice coherent writing so that I can email people quickly, um really saves time so I can spend more time doing more novel things, then I might be more cleverer after
Yeah,
using,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I was looking into a few of these things. So I think one thing I was looking at was because this has been looked at like in a few learning studies. One is that um, just looking at like we know that novelty is good for the brain. Like that's true in animals and that's true in humans. Is just kind of like doing a variety of things seems to just be good for the brain in general. Like you see this with mice when you put actually, if you just put like a cardboard tube in the mouse's cage, like the mice that get like a new cardboard tube are like smarter and healthier than the mice that don't get a cardboard tube. It's kind of sad, but but it's just that kind of novelty enrichment is really good for the brain.
I
I
was
was
gonna say,
reading,
a lot of the mouse models of diseases, if you enrich their environment, their diseases basically go away. Like most of their
right?
phenotypes, like we actually have to do standard housing because if we give them too many toys, they lose any of the phenotypes that we're looking for that we're supposed to try and like fix with our like mouse circuitry things. Um,
Mhm.
my
Wow,
Ribeye
yeah.
B says my educational cardboard tube. Yeah, like we need novelty. Like we need things, and
like like the conclusion of this is like that using AI is perfectly fine, but everyone should just like have a cardboard tube to crawl into.
and
Like
interact with.
technically,
Yeah,
yeah, like I mean you can like crawl in it, you can chew on it. Like I think that's the main things that the mice do with the tubes actually. But you
hide and
can
go
crawl
seek
on
with
it.
the other mouse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. um if we're going by the mouse research, yeah, the cardboard tube is like the cure for like all these brain diseases.
Oh well,
But the reason
importantly,
I
the cardboard tube needs to be switched out with like a square tube next week, and then a circular tube, and then like a hut, and like like shelves, like different
like
things.
different so novelty, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically novelty.
I guess yeah, but I think so that I think also we kind of see this in humans. So I was looking at this thing where it was talking about what prevents dementia, and there was this report from the Lancet that has the 12 modifiable risk factors for dementia that have kind of been identified in basically in meta-analysis, and they are in that link. They're a person's level of education, level of social contact, hearing impairment, exercise, depression symptoms, alcohol use, midlife obesity, exposure to air pollution, smoking habits, head injuries, hypertension, and diabetes. And so basically what you see is that like a lot of there's like metabolic cardiovascular brain diseases that increase risk. But the things that decrease risk are having gone to school for a long time, having a lot of like social engagement, and probably hearing impairment is like, or having good hearing protects against dementia, probably because it allows, like having good hearing allows you to like stay engaged with your environment is the thought. And they also talk about kind of this idea of cognitive reserve and kind of that as adults you can boost your like protection against dementia just by doing more stuff. And so I think that all really points to this idea that like novelty is really important. I think one thing I would say is that probably novelty is more important than doing things that are like perceived as hard. Like we have this idea of like what you were saying about things that take a lot of mental effort. Those are not necessarily the things that are good for the brain. So like the intervention that like has the best evidence for improving intelligence in like in young adults is actually like playing shooter video games.
Oh.
Um, it seems like people who play a lot of these fast-paced video games, um, they have better intelligence, and when you use it as an intervention, it seems like you do see some increase in intelligence when people practice playing them.
I mean,
Um,
also having a relaxed test taker because they're like, yes, go play some games and then come back.
yeah. But it's like if you assign people to play Call of Duty for like 3 months, they'll actually then just like you give them a random test like a while after that, and they do better than people who've gotten a placebo. Um,
What is the non-shooter game, placebo game?
Sometimes they'll do like strategy games or word games or like something that
Ah.
kind of they have to spend the same amount of time like staring at a computer screen. But all that is to say, I think there's this kind of myth that like writing essays is brain exercise, and that if we're taking it away, then people aren't exercising their brains. And I think like the truth is that brain exercise is a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot of things that people do. And if you make something simpler, people are then going to use that time and energy to do something else.
Yeah.
Um,
And perhaps we just need different ways to evaluate students. I know that
yeah,
sounds like
I
a
think
lot of
that's
work
yeah,
for us,
yeah.
but maybe we should not give the 80% of their grade on like an essay. Like
Mhm.
maybe we make them make presentations. Maybe we make them do like group projects. And do you know what I mean? Like change the
Yeah.
way we teach kids because clearly it's not working.
I've
If
also seen, so one thing that some educators are using now is there's software that can actually just like show how you write the essay over time. So that's pretty good for protecting against people just pasting in stuff from an AI, because you can see when people just pasted a big chunk of text.
oh yeah,
Um,
that's kind of nice. Because there's like a timestamp for when each like portion was
yeah,
written.
I do
Um,
think, I mean, kind of the criticism is like, okay, one is the AI is generating the text. The other thing is that like people are using this for research, maybe, so maybe it makes them lazy at research because you're kind of asking the AI to come up with a thesis and then you just write the thesis. Like, I think there's a lot of ways that you could make this argument.
yeah.
I will say, like, we can make kind of the opposing argument, and I would also say there's a lot of evidence that like rather than just doing a lot of hard mental work, we actually know that like if you do a task quickly and take a break, that is, you remember stuff better. There's actually a lot of research on that kind of giving people these breaks after learning is good for memory. We also know that generally like learning in an interactive way where you're asking questions, which is how you interact with a lot of these AI systems, is seems to be better for memory than learning in kind of a static way.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
also
perhaps we
related to
should teach. I was gonna say maybe we teach them to interact with AI on purpose. Like, hey,
Mhm.
AI, whatever, please, like, give me Socrative method. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So
tell me, give
a
me.
lot of AIs are starting to do that now. Actually, just got announced in the last couple of weeks. So ChatGPT and Gemini both have like Socratic method modes
Yeah,
built
and it's
in.
like, yeah, like you can just like turn it on, and then it'll just be like, why do you think you would do that? And it's just like, well, maybe it's
Mhm.
like this. And actually, that process, and it's really energy expensive for a teacher to teach Socratically,
Mhm.
because it requires you spending your time waiting and doing things at half speed, basically. And like, imagine having a AI like literally Socrates like explain
Yeah.
to you philosophy or whatever. And that would make life so much, I mean, you could learn faster and better. I don't know. Could be really good
Yeah,
for the
and
kids.
there's actually evidence that this happened. So this meta-analysis came out a while ago, and it was actually looking at like instructors who were using these kind of AI-aided instruction methodologies. And what they found is that interestingly, like both students tended to learn more when they got this, and they also showed kind of more confidence and self-directedness in their learning. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, like you're saying, like the kind of the AI stuff can make it like learning more personal. It can make the learning rate and difficulty adapt to where you are at the moment. Like I think there's this really jives with a lot of what we would kind of predict from classical learning theory. So basically, I think the idea that like it's good to be like just doing like grinding writing essays and like that's what's good for your brain. I think there's really we can say that's pretty disproven at this point. I think, yeah,
That's good. That's good to know.
yeah, yeah. I found it really, so when I was reading these papers, I found some really interesting things about this. And so one of them, I think one of the things that people talk about is people often say like the brain is like a muscle. And I think that's actually a really bad metaphor because we have like a limited number of muscles that we use. Each muscle is used to do a whole bunch of different tasks. And so therefore you can strengthen a muscle and you get better at like a whole bunch of different things. With the brain, that doesn't seem to be true. So we know we have all these examples actually. One is there's memory athletics where people basically train their memories to learn like to be able to remember like 10,000 digits of pi. And then they practice reciting pi. There's London taxi cab drivers who have to learn to memorize the whole map of London. They've been used in a lot of neuropsych studies. And interestingly, the thing that you see in all these populations is that they get really, really good at doing that task and they get really no better at doing any other task. So this idea that kind of like making people rely on their memory is good for the brain, like really seems to have very little evidence for it. Because if that was true, you'd expect that like these people who had to like memorize the map of London would be better at other things than people who just always use their GPS. And we looked at this and it doesn't seem like that's the case.
There's hope for
In fact,
us
in some
after all.
cases, there's some studies showing they're worse at it too. There's some this is a little bit more, it's less proven, but there's some studies showing that these taxi cab drivers are actually a little bit worse than average at unrelated tasks. Like maybe they're using more of their capacity for this specific navigation task.
Yeah. I was gonna say like we humans are really good if we hone in on like one particular skill, we can become experts at it. But like as soon as you change the context even a little, it could be completely useless.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a really good example is like people that are master chess players can look at like a chessboard, look at the positions, and like they can like look basically like 10 to 20 steps ahead and be like, these are all the combinations of things could happen like with this current position, and then they can decide, but like if you even added like one column and one row into the board, like imagine on the chessboard,
they can't do it anymore.
They can't do it anymore. Yeah, so like it's really specific to how much they have memorized, all these like components and all the moving parts, and it looks really amazing when they do it, and it actually is very amazing they can do it. But if you add one variable, like one change, like maybe like now there's this many pawns, or now there's an extra, an extra queen for everyone, it changes the calculation to a point where they cannot do those 20 steps ahead anymore. Because
they've learned this very specific skill and it's not really generalized. It's just like they know how to do this very specific thing.
Yeah, which is why it makes like the 3D chess or whatever really exciting to watch, because it's like everyone's on the same playing field again, even if you have practiced chess for years. I mean, obviously there's like a level where
it's like
it's
you
transferable.
have to be skilled in 3D chess specifically.
Correct.
Yeah, Ramebi says, my brain is the gluteus maximus of muscles, very powerful, very beautiful. And it's like the human version of overtraining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the metaphor that I was thinking about that I like more, and I mean, I don't know if like this is like something that people will understand, but it's more like the brain is like the immune system. So our immune system, when we're exposed to a pathogen, it gets better at fighting off that pathogen, but it doesn't really get stronger in a general sense. It's like, okay, if you have the flu, you're probably never going to get that specific strain of flu again, but you're not going to be any better at fighting off cholera than someone who has not had the flu. It's not like the infection is working out your immune system. It's that your immune system is learning specific strategies to fight this specific thing that was in your body. And that is like, so that's more like how our brains learn these skills. And so I guess I would say, like, okay, if your goal is to be really good at like memorizing chess stuff, or your goal is to be really good at like writing essays manually, or really good at a specific language, like, yes, you definitely need to practice it. Like practice does improve your skills in that very rapidly and a lot. If you start relying on AI, your skills are going to deteriorate. However, like, that practice is not going to improve like your overall language ability, and consequently not practicing it is not going to cause that to deteriorate. It's all at this level of like this specific skill that you are doing or not doing.
Yeah, I would say I think there are like certain fields where I do think it's maybe AI is not super helpful, and like at some point it's gonna become stagnant. So I think it's a lot easier now to come across AI art. But like for artists, I think they will need to adapt, right? Because like if
Right.
you're
Like, so the field will need to adapt.
yeah, and we saw this, right? Like we saw this when photography came on board, right? So like before photography existed widely, like portrait artists and like there was a lot of people that their job was to just paint people to make people look like people on paper, and or on oils or whatever. And then when photography came on, and we're like, wait, actually we can capture faces and stuff, and like getting the perfect photo, like perfect rendition of painting wasn't didn't wasn't worth as much anymore because you could just like snap a shot and it would be like $5. And a lot of, I guess, portrait artists are like, oh my god, I lost my job, my skills is portrait art. But then there's a portion of artists who like switched into like a different era of art, like cubism, and like what is this, and I should know the phases of art history, but like the parts where they're really like delving into like the meaning of the art, besides just trying to get like a perfect replica of what exactly the person's face looked like.
Right, just abstract art in general.
Abstract art, and it was like a birth of a whole movement of different kinds of art. And like if you go to art school, you're still going to learn how to draw the perfect face that matches the photo of the person. That's just a skill that you learn along the way, but you also now can express yourself in different, like, that's like not the only way to be paid as an artist anymore, and they'll adapt. And I'm excited for what's coming next. Like, what is the next cool, like, artistic flavor that's coming in, because it's getting recycled, right? There's only so many Studio Ghibli apps that are out there. Eventually you're going to need a different style to appear, and it'll come along. Picasso and other artists really started that movement to adapt to photography. I mean, it's gonna suck for a while. These are growing pains, right? Like, that's progress. Because
yeah. I mean, I do wonder, like, I mean, I guess like it is growing pains in the sense that people are upset about it.
I guess like older, more established people are more upset about it than the youngins are, right? I would say that they are putting fail safes into things. So for example, in my field, in science, they're limiting the number of grants you can apply for every year. And they're like, you can apply for this many
AI
now
stuff.
because you can like generate like 20 grants in a row. And they're like, well, we will read 2 of your best work. Go. When previously you could like submit like 20 of them, because they're like, yeah, you worked really hard for 20 of them, but now you can like generate 20. So they're like, no, we're gonna take 2.
Just, like,
give us your best.
Yeah.
And like that is a way to combat it, right? And like, give us just your best and we'll evaluate those.
I guess, like, I mean, I was thinking about also the creativity part. So like part of it is like people adapting, but I think also part of it is like, I think a lot of creative people like are now starting to like look at this and be like, how do I use this as a tool? I think this kind of comes back to the point that you were saying about like the essay writing too, is like, like it's essentially like okay, you can create a painting or a picture by describing it in words instead of painting it. And I don't know, it's honestly like hard for me to think that that is bad. There is a lot of so like the criticism of it is that kind of like learning these skills is intrinsic to it being a real being a real painter or something. I can buy that. I guess the part that I always think about is like, okay, we have no trouble accepting that screenwriters are a type of artist, or just like authors are a type of artist. And like what they are doing is fundamentally they're prompting either like the actors or the person reading the book or whatever. And so like I'm like, okay, this clearly is a legit form of creative expression because it is in other fields. It's true, it's not exactly the same as drawing it. And maybe it's like if you're having like a competition specifically for paintings, I could say like, okay, well, this is not a painting, this is a digital art thing or whatever. Like that's fine, I guess. Um, but it is weird that there's this idea that kind of like, and this gets back to the cognitive thing because I see people saying like, oh, people are not going to learn to be creative. And I don't know. I think that people actually are being equally creative, but just in different ways that don't quite fit into the established fields yet.
No, I'm excited for the next generation of
Yeah.
kids to grow up with these tools around. Like they're gonna blow us away. They're gonna do cool things,
Yeah.
that we haven't seen yet. I mean, they're gonna need to learn to have a BS meter. I think that is all we
Yeah.
can do.
Ooh,
to-
this is another paper that I was thinking about. Well, it's not really a paper, but it's a series of papers, interestingly. So this is like another thing that people worry about, I think, with AI and technology is kind of what is the impact on critical thinking? Is like AI things just gonna like tell us a bunch of lies and um then people just believe them because it's like it's always right or something like that. I was thinking about this. So first of all, like the question I had is like, okay, there's been a lot of technologies that have changed how we access information and made it easier to kind of like read things. So like has critical thinking actually declined? Like when we've gotten access to social media and like all these other sources of information like us that are just telling us stuff. Um and
okay, so to be fair, like when I prompt AI to find papers for me, I always tell them like using primary sources. Please find me the actual paper.
yeah.
And like most papers before 2020 2024 are written by humans. And so
Mhm.
so I'm like, okay, well, like, you're finding me papers, you're searching through literature, even if you hallucinate papers, I can like click it and find out that that's not a real
And
paper.
like see if it's a real paper.
Yeah, it has like a real, like I can actually read a paper that a human wrote. The scary part is that in like 20 years, 10 years maybe, I could prompt it and be like, show me primary sources, and then like it would give me papers that a human did not write. Do you know what I mean? That was
I mean,
published.
technically, it still does that. I was reading this one blogger that was testing this out, and she like asked it to like do a literature, and I've had it do this too. Like she
Yeah.
asked it to do a literature review and cited the source that was in this book called The History of the Laser that was supposedly like published before lasers were invented. So
Yeah.
she was like, "Huh,
No, but like for now, we can catch these mistakes, right?
true, yeah, like we can
AI
look
is
it up."
going to get better and better at covering these mistakes. Does that make sense? Like for now, it's like when they first did
Like
the
it can
AI
make
art.
more plausible, like it can come up with kind of more plausible covers for
Yeah,
them.
like the deep fakes, originally we could really tell like they had weird hands, like they had weird ticks, and
Mhm.
you're like, ah, it's off by that much, uncanny valley. But now they've gotten so good that it is quite difficult. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
we can't BS meter our way out of it just by vibes. Like, and we can't
True.
BS meter our way out of it, being like, oh yeah, this paper was written by a person. Because most of the papers in the future will have components of it that are AI assisted, at least, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we can BS meter our way out of it still in the sense of like, is this research actually good? Um,
That's true too. But that takes a
yeah.
skill of like years to develop, right? Like, how
Mhm.
would a undergrad student that just started in the field, who has no underdeveloped BS meter, figure out if this paper was good or? Do you know what I mean? Like, if they don't
Yeah.
actually go through the exercise of like reading through it deeply and
I
having.
mean, I feel like if the AI is just summarizing it.
Yeah, if they're only
Mhm.
reading AI summaries, that's the crazy part. Like, I know it saves time, but not
Mhm.
reading a paper, like, in its whole and just getting the summary of it, like, ah. The
Yeah,
BS
that's
meter
true.
is
Like,
so hard to teach undergrads. Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to teach grad students. I have grad students in
It's
my
hard to
lab that
teach everyone.
it's
Yeah.
hard to
They keep
teach.
skipping.
It really, that one really is the Socratic method style. I actually like journal clubs where we call BS on a lot of things, and they learn to be like, oh, that's BS. Okay, that didn't prove it to Ruby. That also doesn't prove it to me anymore. So now I call BS when I see that. Do you know what I mean? In future, it
Mhm.
really takes a while to teach them that. Um, and they keep picking the worst paper journal clubs. I actually think it's
True.
a great opportunity for you to teach them um, a BS meter. So you should just sit there and criticize everything about the paper, just rip it apart.
Journal roasting club. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a paper journal. I am in a journal roasting club, and I think it actually taught me a lot because I learned to basically gauge my BS meter with literal experts in the room. And now I guess I'm one of those people when I have journal club
You're one
in
of the
my
like
group.
BS meter calibrators.
Yeah, and like you just go from a like learner to a new calibrator, and then you'll calibrate hopefully some grad students and some undergrads in your lab, and eventually everyone is like, you
Yeah.
just pass it on.
Yeah. I guess one thing that I'll say about this, and this is a slightly like I think the like, okay, are people just using summaries is it's an interesting thing because it's like it's not totally about people's ability to critical think. It's their ability to critical think plus what information do they have access to. But in some cases, also their ability to critical think because it's having the ability to say like, should I double check that source against something else?
Yeah.
Um, and just one thing that I wanted to mention, which I think is like also a very hopeful thing to end on, is basically people blame like every sort of media for a decline in critical thinking. Like people like if you like so I was trying to find are there longitudinal studies on people's ability to do critical thinking so that we can see like what has been the impact of all these different changes in like the media and the information that people use. And it turns out like what I found was like a whole ton of people being like people can't critically think anymore, but no data act like no like longitudinal studies on this, which is very ironic actually. That everyone is like, ah yes, critical thinking is down, and you're like, how do you know that? And they're just like vibes. Um, but I did find, so it turns out Eastern Illinois University does this, they assess their graduating class every year up until 2016 on a standardized test of critical thinking. And when you look, like as far as I can tell, this is like one of the only longitudinal tests of critical thinking ability. And when you look at what happens, it's pretty stable. It hit a decline. It hit its lowest point in academic year of 2010. This one goes up to 2011. They have, I believe this is the 2015 one. Yeah, so for their 2015 one, they were at 24.68. Um, so really like it I don't see evidence here that like I mean, and this is like when people started using social media and Twitter and all this stuff, and really I don't see any evidence that at least like the students in this sample have gotten worse. Like it seems like they've pretty much stayed the same and just like fluctuated a bit.
We should. Are they continuing to take these exams? Because I feel like we
So
should see what
apparently
it.
they stopped using the Watson Glaser in 2016 for some reason.
Ah,
Um,
I was like, that would be really
which is
cool to
why,
see after AI is released, right? Like, it would be really nice to see
yeah,
some data now with this longitudinal study of undergrads. I mean,
right, it
empirically,
would.
I do see them. I okay, maybe this is like a jealousy thing because like when back in the day when we were in undergrad we had to read them all and do you know what I mean like and then now you're
Yeah,
just flying through it without having to read the actual thing because a lot of assignments we had in undergrad was like summarize what you read and now they're just like yep here you go here's a summary and I'm like well
yeah.
maybe that
And I
was not
guess
a good way to evaluate them anymore.
yeah, and I feel like that this gets back to this thing about like cognitive hardness. Like I feel like people have this intuition that it's like, okay, now because people don't have to work as hard to do these things, it's going to like affect their ability. They're not going to be working out their like critical thinking muscles as much. And like, I guess what I take away from this is that like, I mean, this spans a bunch of time when like few people use search engines, like everyone used search engines up in 2015. Like there's been all these things that have been like claimed to impact our critical thinking and intelligence. And if you try to like over this time range, like a bunch of stuff happened, but you don't really see evidence of it on this trend. Like, so that like that makes me think that like this, I think it comes back to like this hardness and like this fact that people are learning in really different ways seems to actually not matter that much for their abilities on these things.
Yeah. And maybe we should assign reading assignments being like, tell us why you liked this in comparison to something we talked about in class. And then they would have to prompt it. And in the process of prompting, they would have learned. Do you know what I mean? They would have made a decision about
Yeah, yeah. Then they're
and then
thinking about like,
yeah, and then they're thinking about it, and then that's all we can ask for. It's like the student thought about the problem. Like that's great. Like I think that counts as doing their homework. Even
mhm,
if, AI wrote most of it, they did the
yeah,
exercise of
yeah,
prompting and thinking about it. And like
yep,
we just have to work a little harder and they have to work different.
right,
Could be
yeah.
cool.
And
Um and then
honestly,
maybe
I think that
we'll let AI grade it for us. So we
yeah.
don't have to work.
Anyway, yeah, I think that's the AI rabbit hole, AI and learning rabbit down. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's fine. I think the way we've learned things and experienced things has changed a lot, and it's just like people's brains are good at finding challenges. It's like we like if we're deprived of cognitive activity, we get bored and we go find something to do. And just this idea that like you have to be constantly working out your brain, I think just like not backed up by
Yeah, I mean,
anything.
there is a component of AI that is a little scary because it is a little bit black boxy. Like we don't exactly know how it was
Oh
trained.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
like if you when we use a calculator, we're like, you're gonna stop learning how to do long division because now there's calculators. And I was like, when have I ever needed to do long division by hand ever again? Um,
right. Like
but I know how a
yeah.
calculator created the numbers, right? Like you inputted these things.
I mean, do you though? Like, do you know how the how the binary adders in the calculator are actually adding
I
though?
no, yeah, that's true. I don't know those. But I do know if I typed in the same numbers every time, I would get the same results.
True. Yeah. Which is not necessarily the case with an LLM. Like sometimes you'll be like, what is
Yeah.
23 divided by 9? And it'll just be like B emoji. And then you're like, okay.
Like it won't always
Um,
give you the same answer. So that's a little bit scary. Um so the BS
true.
meter, right? That is the ultimate way to get around this is to learn.
Yeah.
To train
Be
the BS meter.
skeptical.
Be skeptical, be
Yep.
more skeptical than even before. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's the only way to fight this this war against misinformation, which is, I think,
Like
the
honestly, I
era
wonder if
we're in.
the impact is just that it's going to make people better at critical thinking.
Oh, that is such a optimistic way to think of it. I'm so worried that people are gonna lose their
Like, okay,
ability
I mean, I was
to
really
become
interested
critical
in
thinkers.
your
Yeah.
like what you were thinking about, like in the journal clubs, right? It's like, okay, now people can read this summary, like they read this. It's like to be a good undergrad or grad student who just doesn't constantly come off as an idiot in that environment. You have to learn to double check your stuff, and if you don't learn that, like you keep doing things wrong, and so there's a clear feedback signal that is pushing you to critically think, and it's like now you can't just trust, like, okay, they took a picture of these cells, so therefore the cells must be there, because like maybe the picture was fabricated. So it's like it's almost like you're kind of required to learn that
Yeah, now you're required to go check. Like, let's look at a raw image of this. Let's look into the yeah.
before they hear
Oh no.
get better at like deploying these critical things. We need to learn to deploy our critical thinking skills in more situations that we didn't before.
Yeah. Work your brains. Anyway, I
Yeah.
think we are actually out of time. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us. We are Philosophisciencing. Come back in a week for us to discuss a different
For a
topic.
stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're laser birds.